Hello, dear listeners. I'm afraid that we made a mistake on the episode you're about to listen to, and we called the poet Stephanie Berger Samantha Berger. So we edited the name out and inserted the correct name, but we felt like we should still announce it to you in this manner. And so now I have. Stephanie Berger, thank you so much for your patience and understanding. And welcome to the Painted Bread Quarterly Slush Pile. We developed this podcast in order to help you understand how long it takes us to get back to you. But we really do care about every single piece that's brought in, and we have a democratic editorial policy which we're about to illustrate for you. So we, after asking secondary permission, we read poems that came right off our slush pile and discuss them as the episode. And the we are the people I'm about to introduce to you right now. And I am Kathleen Volkmiller. I'm a writer and director of the graduate program in publishing and co-editor with along with all of these wonderful people of the Painted Bride Quarterly. And I guess we'll start with our special guest star. As always, I like when we do things that are new and different. And today we have Samantha, who's from Northeast Philly, but here by way of Abu Dhabi. She's right here next to me and I can grab her leg. How about that?
Hi, everyone. I'm here in Philadelphia for my brother's wedding, actually, next week. And I'm excited to be here in the Philly team because I'm usually podcasting from Abu Dhabi with Marion.
Yep. We're gonna
Abu Dhabi counts as Philly, though.
Abu Dhabi. She watched the Eagles game, and this is the one that Marion talks about watching the Super Bowl with a crew of people at 4 a.m. or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yes, it was worth it.
So, Tim, tell us about you.
My name is Tim Fitz, and I am the author of 2 short story collections, Hypothermia and Go Home and Cry for Yourselves. I teach here at Drexel and the Curtis Institute of Music, and I am the co-founder of the Philly Homebrew Reading Series. So if you're in Philly on one of those dates, you should stop by because we have free beer samples and great writers.
I can attest to the free beer and the hard cider.
Like full glass samples. Yeah.
I am Ali Ziabash, third year English student here at Drexel. I am Kathleen's co-op currently, loving the position. I'm happy to be here.
And who do we have out in the world? We have Jason. Hey, Jason.
Hi, my semester's over, so I'm back in Brooklyn, podcasting from my yellow Parsons table in lovely Bedford-Stuyvesant.
I always love that. You're going to have to take a pic someday so we can just throw that up there. You know?
My husband has had this Parsons table a long time.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you on being done with the term. I'll have a small pause between terms, but I'll be here all summer. It's okay. It's really okay. I love my job. Oh, wait. Sorry. That's what I usually do in my head. So, without further ado, we have a lot of incredible work from an incredible poet by the name of Stephanie Berger. And I think we should jump on in. As our special guest, would you like to start us off?
Sure.
Yay.
So the first one we're reading is Just to Give You an Idea. Imagine this rock here is the center of the universe. Imagine this rock is your belly button. Divide your body into halves, then quarters, and then make a planet. This leg of your journey will take about 500 years. I would like to stop and show you why, along the way, but the bones, they're telling us to keep moving. Seas of femurs, pools of pelvises, arranged as arrows and symmetrical suns. Here you find a hole and make something in it. Your aesthetics reflect a fear of empty space, a terror of the vacuum, like a sleeping feline with the face of an owl, and the tail of a snake must be sacrificed. I returned to the fetal position in the afterlife. My soul made a circular journey down the river and up the Milky Way. Now I'm back. So let me tell you a little something about caves and rivers. No one shall pass through but by me. My belly button is the center of this universe, a sacred valley, surrounded by mountains, filled with silver so luxuriously. We all want to look a little richer than we are. Those earplugs are a status symbol. We all know that baby alpaca is cool to the touch, that eucalyptus towers above the peaks and helps us breathe at the site where we can see. The founder of the lightning bolt, that golden idol with a hole where his heart should be, a mole on his face in the shape of Peru, Jesus with a guinea pig laid out on the table, Mother Mary with cocoa leaves puffing out her cheek, teenage girls grinding the corn like teeth. I believe in reciprocity, offering my tears and receiving your laugh, splitting my body into two and giving you half. This is the point where our two valleys meet. That's why we're in a wind tunnel.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful reading. We're trying to applaud in here quietly. Where to begin? It's dense, right? This is a dense one.
I really love the motion. I think that she sort of like does this world making work really early on, I guess, in both senses of that word. But it grounds you so nicely. I mean, like it's sort of making these like incredibly large claims, but really following through on them, like really kind of keeping in the space that it's bringing you to.
Mm-hmm. And where is that space? Where are you brought to? I'll keep you on the hot seat a minute.
Universe, right? I mean, imagine this rock here is the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this rock is your belly button. It's this celestial space-time, like Einsteinian thing. I mean, it feels like the whole universe to me. I mean, it feels incredibly expansive and incredibly intimate at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So sorry, listeners. We're reading. We're intensely looking. I hope you take this as evidence that we don't pre-discuss at all. We do look. Obviously, we choose the poems so that we is usually one or two of us. So nobody has any real familiarity with it until we bring it to you. And remember as well that you can look at this poem, which I'm sure you need to as we discuss it, on our pages, pbqmag.org, and then just click on podcast or scroll down a bit if you're listening to this freshly.
Something I'm looking at and haven't made my mind up about yet is when we have this switch to where we're talking about the earplugs and the baby alpaca, and it's like we leave that universe that she created for a minute, but I imagine these things are still a part of it, and they still are related to the body in a way because the senses of hearing and of touch, but I'm not exactly sure what I think about that yet. So I need to think a little bit more about it.
I love that ending. That's why we're in a wind tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. But it's also so physical. Like, I mean, part of what I think is so exciting about the poem is that it's so... It's really hard to have something that's so celestial, but also still really somatic. And, like, you know, the little things like, my soul just made a circular journey down the river and up the Milky Way. Now I'm back. That's great. And you're in a wind tunnel. That's so, and that we is so intimate, right? That like the reader is kind of like in that wind tunnel with the speaker. And
right.
So that way in which this is sort of, you know, dizzying and moving and kind of encompassing everything, sort of does feel like a wind tunnel if you bring it back to just one individual self.
Right. And I think earlier you said that there's an intimacy even though we're out in the galaxy. And I think that is the use of the word we, but also all these body parts. She brings it back to the belly button, you know, several times that belly button comes back, so that, you know, brings us back in an intimate way. But there's even, you know, faces and earplugs and cheek and teeth and, you know, I'm of the body in a big way, even though I'm getting all of these surreal descriptions as well.
Tim, where are you?
Well, yeah, I like the the sweet spot for me is those earplugs or a status symbol. And I like wearing earplugs. And I like having my own little theater when I'm listening to music and looking around the world. But it is also an incredibly selfish act. You're completely shutting the world out, and you're your own little space, but you're still interacting with the world. I don't necessarily mean that's a bad thing to do, but it is, when you do that, you're only focused on your own sense of being. You're not absorbing the world around you or interacting. I like that you have all this weirdness and all these physical details that send you out around the galaxy, and then suddenly fires this bullet right to the center of your brain. You know, right to that. When I read this, I thought, I don't really see poor people with earplugs. I never thought about that. I never thought about this division of classes, or who can afford the $4.99 to listen to music when they walk down the street. All of the weird stuff, I think, I don't need to sort of go back over what we're saying, but I love that it fires you down to this moment here.
That ending from "I believe in reciprocity, offering my tears and receiving your laugh, splitting my body into two and giving you half. This is the point where our two valleys meet. That's why we're in a wind tunnel." Holy smokes. That's worth everything to me.
And I like the sleeping feline with the face of an owl, and the tail of a snake must be sacrificed.
I think it's really interesting that we're so ruminative, is that a word? Contemplative over this poem?
When I read poems I don't understand, I think two things. Do I not understand and care, or do I not understand and do I not care?
Right, obviously, right.
And so...
yeah. So frequently at our editorial meetings, people start looking stuff up on their phones, and, you know, and I have to, stop the show for a second and go, wait a minute, do we care? Are we investigating just because this one thing is making us curious, or are we invested in this poem, right?
Well, and a lot of times, once you get to that kind of investigatory space, it's a way of, not talking about the poem. But,
That's
actually
true.
being with the weirdness and what that emotional experience of kind of being in this disorienting space is like is really the poem. Looking the thing up and, getting some factoid that's being referenced is often a way out of having to actually discuss what's going on.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I'm going to start yelling at my students even harder. How about can we talk about Jesus and Mother Mary? Where'd they come from? That was quite a surprise to me.
Especially Mother Mary with cocoa leaves puffing out her cheeks.
Right.
And the idea of the mole on the face in the shape of Peru, when I saw the word Jesus before I read that, I thought, the mole is going to be the shape of Jesus. Because they're all
right.
there's Mary's face in a potato or something.
Right.
And so I was really curious about how that kind of played into it.
Yeah, why did we get...
It was sort of one more move towards these kinds of all-encompassing understandings of the world, right? That Jesus and Mary are also symbols of the entire universe and the Godhead, but also kind of being contained in an individual body. And that kind of seemed so Jesus kind of fits in with the sort of back and forth between the celestial universal and the kind of individual and human.
And they're also flat images and that makes me think of constellations, and again to that celestial theme spiraling through this. Physically flat, laid on the table.
Well, we never do this, but I'm going to throw something out there. Based on what Jason said and what we're all kind of saying about our inability to discuss this in a line-by-line manner or an image-by-image manner, are we by any chance already ready to vote? Is this one we're going to talk about the least because there's so much to talk about? Or, do we need to deconstruct to the level that we often do? Or should we just experience this?
I think we're ready to vote.
Do you?
I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then we shall vote. So, Jason, are you you're able to text into Joe?
I am, yes.
Awesome. All right. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, vote. Yay! And it's unanimously in. So I'm so happy that Samantha's very first poem in the studio, first time she got to throw thumbs.
Yes.
It was an up one. Yee. All right. Okay, now we're going to move on to It Doesn't Hurt That She's Beautiful. Jason, you want this one or a later one? I'll take this if you don't want it.
No, I can read this one.
Okay.
Okay. It doesn't hurt that she is beautiful. As she descends into the canyon, she becomes the descent, the way an action can become solid as a steeple. I can be the downfall of man, that sunburst of flesh. For I am the moment the desert meets water from the mountains, an instant connection, a language that can travel into your memories like a fiction, like water from the earth, a landscape more various than the human heart, but she isn't human. The way her nose comes down the center of her face like a coin, like candle wax, a waterfall, a beautiful creator, a dutiful daughter. Excitedly, she babbled, more adorable than any brook. Things come to a head. They come into it. You reach a point in your life. There is a point in every life at which you can see no further. A black hole in a bucket, and so you let it drip, clear as a window in the water. It is important to remember there are windows in the water.
Thank you so much.
It's really fun to read.
I know, I wanted it. No, kidding.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like the little, a beautiful creator, a dutiful daughter. Like, there are these little, sound rhymes and rhythmic repetitions that are just these little landmines in there. Those kind of or like pop rocks when you're not expecting them.
I loved the sound play in Excitedly She Babbled, more adorable than any brook.
Oh, I didn't like that line.
Did you?
That was almost a deal breaker for me.
I've never thought of a brook as adorable, and I loved using that because brooks are freaking adorable. What's wrong with you, Tim Fitz? Think bubble, the little
love
rocks. Brooks are adorable.
I drove from, I don't know what mountains it was, but it was between Salt Lake City and Jackson Hole, up a mountain and down a mountain that had a brook right next to the road. And I was doing about 70 in a rented Corolla. And it was fantastic. And the whole time I thought, I can't believe I get to ride in a brook. I had one kid at home, another on the way, and I thought, this is what I need right now.
This is life.
But I never thought it was adorable. It was
That's
so
why
fantastic.
I like that she pointed that out. That brooks, all brooks are not whatever miles long that was either.
Doesn't matter.
I think the little ones are adorable. And my husband used to go fly fishing, and I would go with him. And I would sit by the brook and read a book by the brook while he fly fished. So, and I have many memories of up in the Poconos,
sounds
little brooks.
Unbelievable, and I'm absolutely jealous, and I would love to go fly fishing. But we're not going to meet on this one.
Okay, all right. But it's interesting that we're both talking about big moments in our life, and this poem goes there too, right? Like moments, memorable moments. There's a point in every.
I think that's why it bothers me so much because there's so many. The last line is so. I love the last line. It's important to remember that there are windows in the water, and I love the title of the poem, and I love all the images in the other poem. So that when I see one that I don't love, I treat it a little differently than if it was just a random poem with this line. If I saw this in another poem, I'd think, whatever. Adorable brook, who cares? But I care about everything in this poem now. So when I see one image that doesn't fit the way my mind is absorbing all the other images,
Yeah.
suddenly I kind of bristle.
Right, but I still think you're just resisting. You're resisting a fresh way to look at it. I mean, look in the dead center of the poem, just like the dead center of a face. The way her nose comes down the center of her face like a coin, like candle wax, a waterfall.
Stop. Yeah, right there.
No. My point is,
Then
I
start
dare
cutting.
say you probably never thought of a nose in either of those three ways either. Right? And that is what she's doing. She's
Yeah.
twisting these normal images and
Yeah, and
describing them in
and
really-
I'm totally there for that image. And then I
Okay,
hit.
all right.
Then I
Brew.
hit the beautiful creator, and I'm like, you
We
know.
don't want to descent into arm wrestling, which is happening next. So
But I don't-
let's just
I-
keep
Arm
but-
wrestling
tracking.
is a possibility.
yeah, it could happen.
We can get
We
to
almost-
arm wrestling if we keep going.
Yeah. But I don't. This is not a deal breaker bad for me. This is not like, it's surrounded by things that I like in the poem.
Yeah, and boy, that title does I keep going back to the title and loving it.
Mm-hmm.
You know. What are you thinking over there, up there, Jason?
I'm really sold on this poem. I mean, I don't think I love it quite as much as I love the first one, but it's a lot of the same energy and a lot of the same movement, and I think it's about a baby, right? About loving a new baby, but
An adorable baby?
I'm really sold. I wasn't for a while. I wasn't sure if it was about a new puppy or a new baby. But I think I've settled on child. But I really love it. I love the way that this kind of keeps moving through all of these different images, but also that it kind of has this tonal juxtaposition. Like I can be the downfall of man. Like, that's such a great, and I feel like the exclamation mark kind of marks that it's a little bit silly, that it's supposed to be a little over the top. So I was really enjoying. I really liked it.
And you know what? I didn't need to deconstruct to that literal of a explication, but I like that you're thinking it could be a daughter, but I didn't even think of that. And I am the mother of two daughters, and that never even struck me. I'm just loving all of these lines, that just make me a language that can travel into your memories like a fiction, like water from the earth, a landscape more various than the human heart. Damn! Wow! And Samantha, in the room, you're so quiet. You're more shy when you're in real life.
I am.
Get up on that mic, girl.
So there's a Showtime show called Big Little Lies, and I don't know if anyone's seen it, but the theme song of that show, or maybe it's HBO, is I think a Fiona Apple song, and she talks about screaming into a canyon.
Oh.
And it's such a beautiful song, and we should put it maybe in the caption for this. But it makes me think of that song, not just because of the imagery, but because of the freedom that this narrator here feels. And I really like this poem. I prefer this to actually the first one. And it's the same thing. I don't completely understand it, but I'm okay with that. And I'm ready to go into this descent.
I don't want to judge this poem next to the last poem or the next poem,
And I hate that you do.
but I'm going to.
Aye.
My question is, how many exclamation points are we game for? Are we tapped out at 3?
I do not have a rubric for exclamation points.
Because I feel like the first one I loved, these I liked, and
Okay.
No. You can't look at it against the other. Each poem must
That's not
stand
fair.
on its own.
Yeah, that's not fair.
It is entirely.
life's not fair.
Well, I don't know. What did I start this episode with? Reminding folks about our Democratic editorial policy. But I think on this one, Mr. Fitz, you are outvoted.
She's like the
I'm-
Lori Moore of poetry.
I'm just wondering, like, as far as our aesthetic sensibilities are concerned, does that pop into your mind like, oh, 2 more It never. It didn't
No,
cross
I have a
anybody's mind.
free and open
It crossed
heart
mine.
and a clear and reflective mind.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I am able to assess every poem as its own individual experience. How about you,
You're a
Jason?
better
Me
one.
too. Ringo Starr is the most underrated drummer. I have a very clear heart.
I have
cut your
a
mic.
closed and icy heart.
Cut that mic off.
Kind of black hole that nothing can escape from. But I love the exclamation mark. I thought they worked really well because they were doing like a kind of tonal work in the poem.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
I evaluate each exclamation mark on its own, and I thought
and you have
That's because you have an open heart and a
but
clear
you
and
have like
reflective
a
mind.
memory stick. You wipe your mind clean for every poem.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can do that.
I just want to be open about my position that I do not have a memory stick.
Jason, I don't know if you heard, but Joe Zhang, our amazing sound engineer, is in here saying he's cutting Tim's mic off.
Wait, and again, I asked,
Exclamation
we can do
point.
that?
And again, what?
I asked, we can do that. So we can cut off Tim's mic
Yes.
and when we're really frustrated, and we can arm wrestle him.
Yes.
Absolutely. All of those things can happen because I have an open, empathetic heart and a clear, reflective mind. So anything is possible at any moment. So, but I think in regards to this poem that we might be ready to vote. Here we go. Are we ready? All right. 1,
ready.
2, 3, vote. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, you need to know that is unanimously in. And next up is Only Light Where the Leaves Once Were. I think I'll take this one, y'all. I'm going to get bespectacled so that I can read more smoothly. All right. Only light where the leaves once were. Truth, marrow, stone, and consequence. She didn't earn a dime of it. The light hammering down on the desert from the opposite side of your expectations as the morning shifts to afternoon. His hat tilted low over one eye, he was practically debonair in his exhaustion, drunk on the feather in his cap. She asked who gave it to him. Once she'd skinny dipped with some kind of demigod and his daughter. She found a dog in the water, and the word for family was born. She wanted to eat the lilies, to be filled and floating on the water like a body. I can see her, sun-drenched and precise, and yet we have never met. Love is a mystery that way, more civil than any city, like a pilgrim who reaches her destination and cannot bear to stop. She knows how to end a poem.
No kidding.
Damn.
I love this image of skinny dipping with a demigod.
And his daughter.
I find myself not as into this one as the other two, and thinking along the way that this better end strong. And then, yeah, like you said, and then I love this ending. The last 5 lines get more powerful as they go. That's really amazing.
I completely agree. I really like the ending, and I'm not as in tune with the middle or the beginning right now, but I can read it a bit more. Maybe I'll be swooned.
But would you keep reading? You wouldn't, if you were reading this in the submission pile, would you have stopped after the first couple lines?
It's short enough that I would have kept reading.
Right,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay. Because I think that's important. I also love the image of the man. He was practically debonair in his exhaustion, drunk on the feather in his cap.
That's a really good line.
And how about wanting to eat the lilies and float on the water like a body? That you understand what she means, right? Like a dead body to float that floaty, right? But she is a body. You can float, but I guess not quite like as if you were dead. Although my father can, actually. He is the best floater there ever was.
Ollie, what are you thinking?
I'm enjoying this piece. I definitely didn't like. I'm not as ecstatic about it as the first two, certainly. I think it does some cool things in the middle and at the end. That ending is just hit so hard.
You know what's interesting? I really would rather not compare it to the other two. This is the most narrative. And I don't know, I mean, you know, all these jokes about our objectivity and being able to read each one fresh. I believe that if I read this on its own, I would still be all about it. Because I like narrative poems. And I'm enjoying the narrative already alone. And then we get to that fabulous ending, and so it's very worth the ride for me.
It's satisfying.
Yeah, right.
And I also think I could chew on the image of her in the water with this demigod and the daughter and a dog, and how this word family is born, I think is really interesting. But those last lines just steal the whole poem for me. So
Wonderful, wonderful.
I mean, I do read them in light of the other poems, because I kind of like Ali said, like I'm sort of seeing her toolbox, right? I'm sort of seeing the techniques that she's working with, and as you said, this is kind of coming to something a little bit more narrative, and I'm really enjoying them kind of as a whole, like sort of like seeing, you know, kind of getting to know this writer and sort of feeling what's going to emerge from it. I kind of do like it in the context of the other poems.
Everything in me is telling me not to ask this question, but yet I'm going to. Anyway, Tim, do you have any reaction to the ampersands? How about the use of these ampersands? Is that like making your hair stand on end, or
Well, two things.
or soothing your heart, or which thing is happening?
Presently I'm befuddled at the discussion of this poem compared to the other poems, but in that fog of befuddlement, I did notice
Hey,
this.
I also said I like this on its own. I did.
I did notice these ampersands, and I was wondering, so here's my answer to that. When I first read it, and it had for me some, compared to the other two poems, some duller moments that ended up, certainly after those last 5 lines, I would read it again and got me back into the poem. It wasn't till after reading it twice that I noticed the ampersands. So at that point, I would say, no, they don't bother me, because they didn't interfere with my, I mean, now that I look at them, they are kind of blaring, but certainly that's, you know, would an and be better there? I don't know. There's 4. There's one up at the top.
Therefore, it's out of his rubric of ampersand.
No, because she's doing it on purpose. There's 4. It's on purpose.
Of course, it's on purpose.
Yeah.
There's 6.
It's not. Are there 6? It's not.
And she meant every one. She meant them all.
You know,
the first one was similar with the ampersands.
Yeah.
If it was a regular thing, then no, there's some of the other poems. No, they don't bother me.
Okay, good. Glad to hear it.
But if a poem's good, I'm going to be, I mean, if it was a bad poem and they were there, then it would bother me.
I think you should ask her if you can use Truth, Marrow, Stone, and Consequence as the title of your next collection of short stories. Wouldn't that be, that's awesome. Truth, Marrow, Stone, and Consequence.
It is a really good list.
Yeah. So,
But anytime you title a book with a list that has "and" in it, when you read them, it sounds like you wrote a different book.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like he's the author of this book, Truth, Marrow, Stone, and Consequence. Then you
That's
right,
true.
you would have to be very careful of what you're italicizing and all of that. Jason, do you remember when we did the issue of Paint and Bread Quarterly? Well, we did 2 separate thematic issues that ended up in one volume, right? But the 2 thematic issues for that volume were food and punishment. And when we would tell people that, they thought it was one theme. Remember?
Punishment.
Yep.
Yeah, but which actually is more intriguing than either food or punishment.
Right. Food and punishment as a theme. It was really. Yeah, that happened.
That happened.
So, here I thought, we had. We're going through these quickly. But I feel like we're ready to vote again. Yeah? All right. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, vote. And it's unanimously in again. Samantha, I think that you need to come to every meeting.
I think so, definitely.
Forget Abu Dhabi, move back to Upper Darby. Right? So now we're going to move to a poem called Below His Monocle. And Ali is going to read for us.
Hello. Below his monocle. Before the pharmacy, above the apothecary, I lived for a spell with broomsticks in a closet with no name. Along the spine of the hill, below the ashen face of heaven, I waited for his ovine spirit to graze my face. She held her breath so tightly it escaped her. She lied in the desert, like it's just so cruciform that the vultures sitting down for dinner with gods are like gentlemen in comparison, cartoonish only to the hawker, the rhyme of her cracked lips. It is everywhere, this sack of pronouns, holding on to each other for dear life, its fetching beaks and blouses. Boutonnieres, it is dear to glare imperially from one's mountain palace. If vulgar, it is vulture, valiant, a peach and so chatty. She inhaled the words voluptuously, with a church-like desire to conceal her meaning. The tremendous gentleness of that moment smothers me, divested of its garland, its daughters, the page holding itself together like a life.
Thank you.
Again with the fantastic endings.
Again. Gosh darn it.
Yeah. And the prosody, I mean, the way that the syntax is wrapping around the lines is just really
Below his monocle. What does that remind anyone of?
The Monopoly Man, instantly. When I think of Monocle, I think of the Monopoly Man.
Yeah.
Monocle.
No, you know what? I'm thinking about The Handmaid's Tale and Beneath His Eye. And I believe this. Does this have the same meaning? Below his monocle? Is there one like overseer? One omniscient person viewing, I don't know. Is that what below his monocle is?
The discerning eye.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I wonder if it's related to the switch from the first person to she.
Okay.
I was thinking of the Wallace Stevens poem, Le Monocle de Mon Oncle. My French is really bad, sorry.
Yeah, but explain that more. Because I'm thinking about The Great Gatsby and The Handmaid's Tale. So tell me about this poem.
It's a Wallace Stevens poem, but it's about, like, the title is taken from the fact that monocle and my uncle are the same in French.
Oh. So does that pertain to the poem, or is that...
the same, but they're very, very close.
Okay.
It's kind of like a Lacanian pun. Like le nom de father, like the name of the father and the no of the father are the same in French. In Lacanian puns, because of unconsciously structured like language.
Well, do you see a relationship to that poem in this poem, or no?
Not really. No,
Just the monocle itself
actually.
made you think of it. Yeah. Okay. I mean, again, she has... I don't know, the vulture sitting like gentlemen, boutonnieres, you can... That's all kind of related to the same image of the Monopoly Man or somebody else with a monocle, right? Anybody who has a monocle you think of as a gentleman, right?
was a pretentious and silly person.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
I don't think anyone could actually wear a monocle after, say, 1950.
Right. Does anybody still? I wonder. Not with
There has
humor.
to be.
Somebody.
There has to be somewhere out there.
Yeah.
No, they would fake it with
I
glasses.
feel like
There'd just be
Brooklyn
one.
is, we're really ripe for a monocle revival. Like that would be like.
It's a new
we have
fashion
monocle
trend.
stores, like next to our artisanal mayonnaise stores.
You know what you just made me think about? I have recently switched to contacts wherein one eye is for seeing close and one eye is for seeing far. And I had resisted this a lot. I told my eye doctor there was no freaking way that was going to work. And it really works. And in fact, I brought reading glasses and I didn't need them now. And I had been starting to need reading glasses, and now I don't. And I thought I would get real dizzy. But the reason why I'm thinking about this and battling right now is because that's essentially I'm wearing a monocle in each eye, aren't I? But I don't have to close my eyes or hold anything up.
You're discreet about it.
Yeah, but the doctor had said, and he was right. Like it would be less than a full day before my brain would just adjust without my having to consciously
It's amazing.
think of which eye is which. Right. So anyway, that's why we no longer need monocles.
But have you lost depth perception?
Not at all.
Oh.
I've never been a good parallel parker or or car packer.
We should take you to a basketball court. See how your shots
Test it out.
I don't know how to test my depth perception, but I think I'm okay. I'm not missing tabletops. I don't know. I just know that I bought myself reading glasses at the dollar store and put them everywhere in my home that I could use them, and in my bag, and now I'm not getting them. I'm not using them. So that's a sign, right?
I think so.
Well, back to the poem. I again, I sort of like this move towards specificity and kind of the way that we're discussing them.
Mm-hmm.
That we kind of keep getting closer and closer to narrative, and kind of we get we're always in this kind of ecstatic space where things are universal and transcendent, but there's also the specificity kind of keeps working through. And then I love before the pharmacy above the apothecary. I live for a spell.
Yeah, and again with the wordplay too, the sounds of it is dear. I can't do it now. It is dear to glare impurely from one's mountain palace.
And the pronouns holding on to each other for dear life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel this captures grandiose moments of precarity in a really beautiful way that something narrative might not. That in sort of staying in this sort of slightly ungrounded space, I really do have that sense of what it felt like to be young and living somewhere temporary and hoping for something amazing to come, kind of doing something so that you would have something amazing later, but then kind of also being in this, slightly romantic or bohemian space. And I feel like this really captures that feeling for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna defend my own initial thoughts too about beneath his eye, below his monocle, along the spine of the hill, below the ashen face of heaven. I waited for his ovine spirit to graze my face. Mm-hmm. I think that probably is also what put me in that mind of somebody. I mean, ovine spirit is kind of hysterical. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, if you're in Ireland, there's lots of sheep on the mountains looking down on you, or one could think so, right? Although I doubt anybody's wearing a monocle.
That would be a sight to see.
You gotta find an image of a sheep with a monocle for this podcast.
And a top hat.
Her other poems, the titles are so vague, and then suddenly, and then they're followed up by so many clear images. And then this one, it's almost a shock to have that image of the monocle. It's almost hard to get started after.
Yeah, maybe that's why I keep going back to it. But again, you guys, those last lines, the tremendous gentleness of that moment smothers me.
If I feel like at this point, if I saw her book on the shelf, I would get it. I don't really care what her poems are about. I just want to see how she gets to the last line. You know?
She's going to read the last stanza of every poem.
I would do that. Yeah, of course. I would do that. If I got her book, the first thing I'd do is go to every last 4 lines.
Then you'd go back and read them, though, like a human being.
Well, sure. But
Yeah, okay.
it's a different type of reading. I mean, I've never thought about reading a poem this way before. Where I don't care if there's... After 4 poems, I don't really care about things that I don't like or get on my nerves, because I know there's going to be a payoff, and then that's going to inform the way I reread it. I've never read poems like that before.
Right.
Because everyone has different ways of receiving images. Certain images speak to us differently.
Sure.
And so you're going to have things that amaze one person and grind on another person's nerves. But these, there are 3 or 4 places in all these poems that both amaze me and irritate me. Then it gets to this last line, and suddenly,
It's worth
there's a home run.
It's worth the earlier annoyance.
It's almost like someone watching a pitcher who purposely throws some bad pitches and good pitches just to tease the batter for that final pitch where they humiliate them. That's there's a beauty in that process.
Ali, how did it feel to read the poem?
It felt excellent, actually. I got caught up a few times, but it flowed very well. There's a certain language to this that felt delightful when it comes off your lips.
Mm-hmm.
I really like thinking about it in light of what Jason said about it being this young person who just, is looking maybe for greatness or something in a way. And, you can see that apartment with the broomsticks, and it's a little messy and all these things. And then this idea that, like, maybe these people are kind of the vultures, and the gods are the ones who they aspire to be like, but in fact they're like kind of looking down on everyone, and everyone else is sort of looking up. And I don't know, it's just really interesting. But at the end of the day, the tremendous gentleness of the moment is smothering. The poem is smothering in that you want to understand it, but really maybe it's just a moment, and we just kind of have to take that and enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that means we have to vote. All right, let's do it. 1, 2, 3, vote. And we're in. Surprise! Again, no dramatic tension, I think, on the voting today. But that was 4 for 4. And now I have to reveal. Now the big reveal. So Stephanie Berger sent us a different package of poems. And because we take so long, which is why I introduced the show this way today, they were all accepted elsewhere. And she was very excited about the idea of the podcast and sent us another group of 6. And then the difficulty became deciding which 6, because they were all so fabulous, right? Which of those 6 we should do for a show. So Stephanie Berger is kicking some ass, I think. And I'm sure you will agree. So listeners, look at those poems on the page. Look her up. I think that she is going to have some books on the shelves for Tim to pull down and read the ends of. So I feel like everybody's really quiet today. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Only positive things? What are you reading? What are you watching? What all are you going to do while you're here? Your brother's wedding next week?
Brother's getting married at Stout's Brewery
Yeah.
in Philadelphia next week, and I'm reading War and Peace actually.
Wow.
So-
That's your summer goal?
I read a few hundred pages on my 14-hour flight from Abu Dhabi.
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
Then,
3% through.
So I read War and Peace in graduate school.
Okay.
And I annotated the hell out of the physical book, you know? And I'm reading, and somewhere on page like maybe 700, the book skipped to page 928. And I went to the bookstore and was like, and they said, well, give us that book and we'll get you a new one. And I was like, no. I threw myself across the desk and I was like, you are not getting this book. And I had to I really argued, and they gave me another book.
Good.
Without me having to give them that book. Because I was like, look, I wrote almost as much as he did all through here. And I was still in the class, you know, so I needed it with my annotations.
Should take that to the Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I do still own that book. But so then at one point it was down in my basement in my home, and water came in, and it got warped, but in no way ruined, but it now looks like it exploded, you know? You can all picture that. So but I'm still keeping it because
Memories.
memories. Because memories. Because annotation. Do you guys still write in books ever, Ollie?
Yeah, in class I take notes. I mean, it's tough generally. Like, I feel like a lot of students nowadays are just using their iPads for stuff, or recording lectures and just listening to them back.
Yeah.
And writing notes on the computer. I see a lot of that, but I prefer. I feel like if I don't write it down specifically, I won't remember it.
Yeah.
And if I type it out, then I won't remember it.
Absolutely. There is a difference in the brain when you handwrite. And you're an English major, so that does probably give you a propensity toward buying books and not reading ebooks, right?
Yeah, I can't stand to read on a Kindle or on the computer. I'll read like articles and stuff, but if it's a story, then I have to have something tangible in my hands.
Yeah, that's good news.
I like to write first drafts of stories in other people's books. If I'm reading a book that I like and I come up with an idea, so a lot of the books on the shelf have
3 or 4
all the
blank
first
pages,
drafts
First drafts of your
of
stories?
my stories. Yeah. So
Because you start
I
responding to what you're reading.
well, I love the books that have a lot of blank pages at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Because then you can read it and then you can think about stuff at the same time.
Right. What are you reading right now? What's that?
I'm reading Cameron Mackenzie's novel, The Beginning of His Excellent and Eventful Career, one of my favorite all-time novels.
Is it really?
Yeah,
you must
I
have
love this.
read it already. I'm thinking in drafts at least.
He brought it to my house 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In manuscript, in the first 15 pages. And I was so angry at how much I liked it that I had to write my own novel.
Arm wrestle him. And then he turned off your microphone.
He did.
I love Tim has just such physical responses to things, you know? It's amazing. Anybody anything else to say? Alrighty then. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you listeners for listening.